I'm going to start right out off. Scott Deschaffee is here, and Scott, for a very little bit of history, was our first candidate to run for this position in 2008. He petitioned, I think, starting in January, and got himself on the ballot. He also ran in 2010, and since then, every cycle we've run a candidate, had very different candidates each time. It's been quite a variety, but each of our candidates has received the 1% over during the course of the election in a four-way race with the Libertarians always participating. And I think we might have the distinction of being the only ballot line in a big region that's actually been maintained for a decade in four-way races. So it's been a little bit of a tradition for me to ask Scott if he will be the first speaker to kind of start us off. So welcome, Scott.
Well, thank you, Rana. Can you hear me, everybody?
I can.
Audio's good? Okay, good. First of all, I'm glad to see so many familiar faces and also glad to see some new faces. I hope I get to meet the new people in the very near future over coffee or what have you. And having had the experience of running for Congress twice, then perhaps I can provide some guidance to people. And as I sum up in what I hope will be less than 5 minutes, I'll give some advice to people in terms of helping one another out during this election cycle. Speaking of cycles, a fellow by the name of Craig Dilworth, who I think is at Uppsala University, wrote a book called Too Smart for Our Own Good. That's close to the title anyway. And he came up with this idea of vicious circle principle. And what a vicious circle principle is, it's human development is accelerated from situations of scarcity to technological innovation. It could be the discovery of fire, the discovery of oil, whatever it might be. And that led inevitably to increased resource availability, increased consumption and population growth, to eventual resource depletion and enormous waste and pollution to scarcity once again. And then the cycle continues and reiterates. Well, we've kept moving further out of equilibrium as a result of our species history and this vicious circle principle. And as a result, the sustainable planetary limitations within which all life has to live on Earth are getting further and further away from renewability in the biosphere. And this greatly, of course, increases the likelihood of extinctions, including our own, not to mention the millions of other species with which we share the biosphere. Now, solar energy and wind energy are, for all intents and purposes, the jackpot energy source, which enables us to stay sustainable and not exceed the limitations of the planet. Now, another point I'd like to make is, why haven't we converted to solar more readily? We know about the pollution that's associated with fossil fuels. We know about climate change. After 40 years of debate, it's a no-brainer. The jury was not out 40 years ago in the 1980s. The scientific community, by consensus, recognized anthropogenic climate change and global warming. The problem is brains, at least human brains, are belief makers. And we take in sensory information, we look for and find patterns, not necessarily cause and effect relationships that actually explain everything that we see rationally, but nonetheless patterns that gives meaning to form beliefs. And Carl Yastrzemski, for instance, in the last 4 or 5 years that he played baseball, the great player that he was, great hitter, always wore, and you may remember this, a sock that had a big hole in it, a gaping hole in it. And I'm sure Yaz did that because it was a good luck charm. When he was spiked, perhaps sliding into a base, or maybe he was playing first base and somebody was sliding back and spiked him and tore the sock, maybe that day he hit 3 home runs or went 4 for 4. And from that point on, even though rationally there was no cause and effect relationship between tearing that sock and having a great day at bat and on the baseball diamond, he wore that torn sock the rest of his career. Well, that's essentially what I'm talking about. Subconsciously or by deliberate cherry picking, we then seek out confirmational stuff to support or reinforce whatever the belief may be, not refute or debunk it. That confirmation bias, which social psychologists call it, leads to political, economic, religious, conspiracy theories, paranormal beliefs, refusal to consider fact and evidence, and sound science. I think that the Green Party has been particularly important as a pioneer party. Much like pioneer species that once an area is devastated, let's say after a volcanic eruption, Krakatoa as an example, there's no life there at all. And then pioneer species, bacteria, other more complex forms of life start to develop there. They enrich the lava so that the soil can sustain plant growth, etc. And like a pioneer species, we of the Green Party have established footholds on new terrain. And we should be very proud of that. We should be proud of taking important positions considered far left when I ran in 2008 and 2010. Certainly 10 years prior when Ralph Nader and other candidates for the Green Party ran. Things like that are now considered mainstream, like climate change and global warming, sustainability, expanding Medicare for everybody, universal health care, tuition-free college, ranked choice elections, which are occurring now in Alaska, that I guess are gaining traction in Nevada and other states, and of course, social justice, all of
If
which
Palin
are
gets there.
part and parcel of our 10 key values. And the new legislation that we see now coming from the Democrats are just inroads. It's not enough, but at least it's something, and it's there, and nobody should think otherwise. It's there because of the Green Party being that pioneer political party on these issues. But still, we have fact deniers. And we have the people that are looking for confirmational biases, to cherry pick and to not acknowledge the facts and evidence that debunk what they're thinking. And worse yet, we have truly dangerous, violence inciting individuals that have run and have achieved elected office and are running now or seeking nominations, mostly with the GOP, which I could never have imagined, even 10 years ago, could possibly exist, where a former president would insist, having lost an election validly, that he was still president. That a former president would try to incite violence and instigate a coup to retain the presidency. And worse yet, that people would believe him in sufficient numbers where he poses what I consider a threat to possibly run again, seeking some type of federal office, including the presidency. So denying elections, denying defeat, insisting that that person is still president, are true dangers to our democracy. And I think anybody who's going to be running for election with the Green Party has to make that clear. And we have to emphasize the truth and debunk lies wherever we find them. And that's not easy in this age of social media, because anybody can say anything. And right now, people are of the false opinion that all opinions are equal. They're not. And if somebody says, well, this scientist's opinion is worth more than the plumber's opinion on matters of science, and the plumber's opinion is worth more than the scientist on matters of plumbing, and they're called elitist, we got a big problem in this country, because that means we're not making decisions and we're not dealing with crises on the basis of documented fact. So I ask that everybody to support one another once we choose our candidates here today by getting on the radio, calling in on some of these often right-wing radio talk shows, and when you hear false statements, correcting them. Anybody can state a lie, and through social media, it's going to be amplified. And in social media, people are going to replicate that lie hundreds, in fact, thousands of times within minutes. To come up with the facts that refute that lie and show it as false takes time. It's not easy, even if you have the facts at your fingertips, because there are people in this population that are going to resist. So get the letters to the editor out, get on the radio stations and support one another. And I wish you all luck in this coming election. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Just got, okay. I guess we got the mute all straightened out. The next speaker is going to be Michelle Louise Bicking. She was our 2018 candidate for this district. This year, she has topped our slate for statewide offices as our gubernatorial candidate. And I asked her to speak for maybe 5 minutes or so about the theme of the campaign, what the status is, and how we're going forward. So welcome, Michelle. You've got to unmute, sorry.
No problem. I thought I just hit the unmute button and it didn't respond to me. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Good evening from Silas as well.
Good.
Always grateful to have the opportunity to check in with everyone. Just as a soft reintroduction, my name is Michelle Louise Bicking. First generation Bajan Vincentian woman of color. Born in Manhattan, grew up in Brooklyn, New York. And I am a medical social worker, bless you, certified birth doula, bless you. Former first grade teacher and former foster mother. There have been several times throughout my campaign these last couple of months that when I speak to people in the press, as well as have conversations with folk, they've asked me, how did I arrive at the place of wanting to run for governor? And I said, well, Rhoda Stuhler showed up in my driveway with a clipboard and a pen. And, you know, it seems like it was a done deal. So for Rhoda to believe in me, I think I'm more than capable of taking the reins of, of leadership on a state level. In conversation with my peers, including Rona, we had talked about what the theme would be for this run. And it just kept, the words of Shirley Chisholm and Fannie Lou Hamer and others, Ida B. Wells, had just, it kept coming up in my mind. my forebearers in terms of, the way I should present myself to the public. And room at the table just seemed like a most fitting, that's Kat here, I guess the cat wanted to join, the most fitting approach to the kind of environment that we would like to promote in Connecticut, where everyone has a voice and a say in how their state is to be run, and that everyone has equitable access to very basic amenities of education, comprehensive healthcare, housing, food, and love, being able to connect with people and to care for people regardless of who they are or why they're together. Love is definitely enough for everyone. Pardon me. I'm not sure where that Lego piece is. So the beauty of being a single mom, there are a lot of challenges to it, but I have a very unique opportunity, raising a child who will get to see what it's like when your personal priorities become like part of the state vision. My desire for my son to have the best quality of life, to be able to further his education the way he so chooses, to love who he wishes. I mean, all of that stems from my belief that it is deserving of everyone, that everyone deserves that opportunity. So room at the table is the theme, the overarching theme of the campaign. My three priorities in tandem with my Lieutenant Governor, Cassandra Martineau, who I have the utmost respect and am so grateful for knowing, is moving towards universal education, universal health care, and actually creating a viable, robust mass transit system in the state of Connecticut that crisscrosses the state instead of just runs through the major corridors of like 95 and 84 and 91. So, I just wanted to thank also all of the people who had helped me get to the point of securing ballots to be placed on, to have our own individual ballot line this November. I haven't gotten the official word, but my assumption is that we did not make it, as much as we did, get out there and pound the pavement and have like some valid discussions with people about, what matters to them moving forward. So at this stage, I'm going to submit the paperwork to be considered as a write-in candidate, and keep pushing forward on getting the word out about the importance of of really having a life in Connecticut that is worth living, and raising your children and all of those things. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you this evening. Again, I apologize. When you have a little one and you're cooking and cleaning, you try to steal away for a little bit. And I'm so glad I was able to spend some time with you this evening. Thank you. Oh, if you have any questions for me, or if you want to reach me directly, I always love meeting with folks face to face. The John Brown Gun Club, we're in the process of organizing a meeting with local gun clubs so we can talk about gun violence as well as personal safety and right to bear arms. I am on a show this evening called The Smoke Break, talking about my policy priorities moving forward. The fastest way to reach me is by email, which is my last name dot my first name @gmail.com. So biking.michelle@gmail.com. Second fastest is to call me directly at 860-255-8189. And I'll see you in the fight.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Cassandra texted me and said she'd be running a little late. She was our candidate.
Anna,
You're here?
Before
Oh.
That was for Monday's meeting.
Oh my gosh. Okay, forget it. I'll spotlight. Okay, I'll intro you then. Cassandra Martineau was our 2020 candidate for 2nd Congressional District, and was on our petition as Lieutenant Governor candidate. And I asked her to speak a little about her goals for this year's campaign. And then she is graciously going to moderate the voting part of this meeting. So Cassandra, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rana. I'll try to be brief with everything. I wasn't sure about running for lieutenant governor, but when I knew I'd get the opportunity to run with / under Michelle, who was picking, that was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. Building on her theme to a degree, I been living in the state of Connecticut my whole life, and I'm proud of, I'm a proud Yankee, proud of my state. But I'm absolutely appalled at the same time because we are one of the wealthiest states in the nation and also have some of the most crippling poverty, and the disparity in it just absolutely appalls me. I taught in various places across the state, and just going from town to town and the weaknesses and strengths in different towns' education systems, which are mostly based, somewhat supplemented, but mostly based upon local finances, which kind of sets up a vicious circle. And just getting to know, a lot more families that were really struggling. And, it's just, there seems to be no reason for it whatsoever. And, as with this campaign, and I was also one of the candidates for 2nd District, I think it's really important, and the Green Party has an essential role in driving towards really vital issues that neither Democrats nor Republicans seem to be even paying attention to. Some of the Democrats are starting to pay lip service, as was mentioned earlier, to some of the issues that we've been trying to bring up for years. When I did my congressional run, I had 3 big issues that I was going on: Medicare for all. Something like 90% of Democrats, 74% of Republicans want this. Neither party is touching it. And it's like, in a representative democracy that we're alleged to be, there's just no reason why this is not a priority for the parties. And that's an important issue for me. I've had my own issues with the medical system myself. Other is Green New Deal, which I kind of gave a local spin to after conversations with Doug Leary, who brought me into some understanding about it's not just the generation of the energy, but the grid that has issues with it. And part of my solution, and one of the things that I pushed, was trying to do this, more federally funded, but more locally controlled by community. For some places, wind might make more sense, or some places solar might. For some places like Norwich, who I believe has their own energy generation from the river, there's water and there's offshore options, for wind, etc., down by the shoreline. So it's not going to look the same from area to area, but also having it in smaller grids can ease up some of the problems we have in the grids. And I was hoping advocating for that local control would be something that might appeal to even more conservative people who seem to tout such things, when it suits them at least. And my third main issue that I was working on was Main Street versus Wall Street. I believe corporate control of government, and I've seen this trickle down right down to the local issue here in Willimantic. It's just really made it impossible to get anything meaningful done. And I think it's one of the essential issues. And of course, it's an essential part of the Green Party. I wish my luck to all candidates and to anyone, either running in this caucus or, running for, whoever is selected for the role. It's really important. It's really important to bring up other voices that nobody else is bringing up. And it's a great opportunity to just expand your own voice. I attended a couple of, mine was 2020. It was the year of the COVID. So, it was over the phone interviews and online surveys and a couple of debates that were over the phone as well. We've got a lot more opportunities to get out there in person and do fairs and such and meet people, which I'm hoping to do. I'm hoping whoever we select is really willing to bring in their strength and their values and do the work to get out the word. It's important work, as has been iterated by others before me. But at that point, I'm going to pass the baton, or am I taking over the baton, as it were, to start our nomination?
I will take, I'll talk for just about 1 minute and just warn people that as the candidates are speaking, I will be sending a link to our voting poll as personal chat messages to everyone who is here. I will post my cell number so that anyone who might be on by phone can cast a vote just texting it to me. All the survey votes will be anonymous. Anyone who votes by phone and texts me, no one will know but me. But that way we can be assured that everyone who is qualified and eligible to vote, which is any registered Greens who live in the district, can vote, and people who can't vote don't. So it's kind of used to be a little easier when we would give out paper ballots to everyone in the room, but I think this will work out well. And I am grateful to Cassandra to take over this part of it. So thank you, and I'm definitely back to you, Cass.
All right, thank you. For a couple of housekeeping points first, and we are going to do the second district congressional race first. And we're going to allow 5 minutes for each candidate to make a statement of their own. I would like people, rather than raising hands this time, just to put questions into the chat room. And I will be timing candidates, so please respect those times. And I know that's kind of brief, but I do want to give questions. I know we're going to have lots of questions, as we always do, and maybe keep the responses to those to like 2 minutes each. I do ask anybody who's asking a question not to ask it of one specific candidate, but to make it, something that either of the candidates can answer. And also, just as a matter of, respecting the diversity of voices, I'm going to more or less read them straight through as they come. The one exception will be to, if I get person A who's got like 5 questions in a row, and then I've got person B, C, D, E, F, I'm going to probably skip over A, just to get in some of the other questions first. And then as time allows, I can go back to those. Also, if I see of a repetition, I might try and roll some of those into one question, just for brevity's sort. And Rana sent me a whole email about etiquette or point of for everybody in this, and I apologize if I wasn't able to find that email. If I've missed anything vital, please chime in. And Rana's saying it looks good. So with that, I'm going to ask, I noticed Jeff Russell did manage to come in. So Jeff, if you would take the microphone, and I'm going to set the timer. I will give you a quick warning at 4 minutes, just so you know it's time to start wrapping up.
Okay, thank you, Cassandra. And I certainly support your candidacy. And Michelle's, I've known both of you for a while. I apologize for getting here late. I had computer problems. I couldn't get in on the machine that has a working camera, so you can't see me because this computer doesn't have one. I look at the second district, and I see that there are times when Joe Courtney thinks the most important part of his job is acquiring submarine contracts. And there are other times when it seems like he thinks that the only part of his job is acquiring submarine contracts. I remember 30 years ago thinking that there's such a pool of talent at Electric Boat. I would really like to see the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration contracting Electric Boat for deep sea research submersibles instead of fast attack submarines. I've had connections with the second congressional district for a long time. My grandfather was deeply connected with the second district, and I remember when agriculture was a lot more vibrant in our district than it is now. And we used to produce some of the best apples in the world here, and all the orchards I knew of when I was a kid have been bulldozed under for housing developments or other so-called developments. Not only is that environmentally counterproductive, almost to the point of insanity, it's economic insanity when we have enough abandoned housing already standing that to house every homeless person 3 or 4 times over. We don't need new housing starts, and it's insane that our economic analysis still chooses to count new housing starts as a positive economic indicator when it is a negative environmental indicator and has a huge carbon footprint. We have a lot of shoreline in the second district. We have a lot of shoreline in Connecticut. Sea level rise is happening. It is going to accelerate. A recent study I saw indicated that if we stop producing greenhouse gases now, just the coasting to get to the temperature equilibrium we're going to get to from what we have at the moment is going to give us at least 10 inches of sea level rise off of Greenland alone, let alone what would happen with the ice sheets down in the Antarctic, and possibly twice that. There are also some science out there that indicates that these ice shelves could end up with a cascade failure that gives us several feet of sea level rise at one time. This is not an if, it's a when, and it's not about how big the sea level rise is going to be as much as how much of it is going to hit us at one time. I don't see anything in the way of preparedness for that. And since I was the radiological response team captain of the Glastonbury Civil Preparedness, is something I'm aware of. And just one thing about nuclear issues. One of the operators of the nuclear plant in Connecticut spent $2 million plus on a public relations campaign to try and sell the people on moving their spent fuel rods from a fuel pool to a dry cask storage. And I went to one of their meetings, and I noticed that they never said anything about contacting the one federal agency that was responsible for regulating safety on the Connecticut River right next to where they wanted to put it. So I called my cousin, who was a Coast Guard graduate and at the time was a professor at the academy, and he said nobody there knew about it. They took one look at it and they vetoed it as a menace to navigation. These people in this nuclear industry was so incompetent that they failed to contact the
Hey,
first.
Jeff, if you could wrap up, please.
I'm just about done. They failed to contact the agency most responsible for what they were doing, and they wasted $2 to $2.5 million doing it. That's a level of incompetence that's scary when you're dealing with nuclear issues. Back to you, Cassandra.
All right, thank you. And my apologies, Kevin. I'm going to hold you off for 1 minute. Just as a point of order, I should have done this before Jeff. Do we have any other nominations for second district before we continue? Any nominations from the floor? All right, that was once. I got asked 3 times.
Yes,
Yes, Doug.
I understood that Kevin Blacker might be interested. If that's the case, I'd like to nominate him.
Yes, sir, and he will be speaking next.
Okay, great.
So I just wanted to, I'm double checking if we have anyone other than Jeff Russell or Kevin Blacker out there who's for nominations, but thank you very much.
And I'd like to second that. I'd like to second Doug on Kevin Blacker.
All right, thank you. Do we have any further nominations beyond Jeff Russell or Kevin Blacker? Okay, hearing none, we're gonna go to let Kevin Blacker speak. I'm setting the timer again, and I see we already got some questions coming up. So after that, we'll get into the questions and allow each of the candidates to answer. Kevin, you have the microphone.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, Kevin.
Okay,
You are
thank
good.
you. So my name is Kevin Blacker. I'm 36 years old. I grew up in the Knowing section of Groton. I went through public schools over here. After that, I went to college at the University of New Hampshire, got a degree in soil science, came back home and worked in the family business with my father, mostly mowing lawns, raking leaves, plowing snow. That's what we do for a living. I also have been farming for about 17 years on rented land, currently in Ledyard, producing hay. I'm here tonight because I guess the 3 members of the Green Party approached me, Rana, Frida Berrigan, and Myrna Martinez, and asked me if I'd consider a nomination or seeking a nomination for the ballot line that you guys have. And it wasn't something that I otherwise would have considered, but I knew of Frida from her mayor's race. I knew of Myrna from the races that she's been in, and was impressed with them. And they came over with Rana, got a real good feeling from her, and gave it some hard thought and decided that it could be something, a real opportunity. I think that what Frida and Rana and Myrna might have seen in me was an opportunity, first and foremost to help me in the work that I've been doing at State Pier, but also to have me help the Green Party bring some of the attention and momentum that I have to the Green Party to help. I've looked over the 10 key values that you guys have. I say that I agree. I share those values. If I was to pick one, I'd say that responsibility would be the one that I would pick because it governs the others. I think that a responsible person would have the other 9 values. Let's see. I guess I understand the responsibility that if I receive this nomination, I understand the responsibility. I'd take seriously the responsibility of needing to secure 1% of the vote. I understand how much work went into getting that ballot line, and what an incredibly valuable and useful tool the ballot line is to give the Green Party the ability to really bring up issues that might otherwise not be considered, to the power of the voice that the ballot line gives. The things that I'd bring, if I was nominated, I'd bring listening skills, creativity, an open mind, a fairly well-known name, a willingness to fight and bear judgment of others, for sharing what I believe in, and I guess I'm not a member of the Green Party. I prefer not to join the Green Party for. Is a minute left, or am I done? Do I still have time?
You do, just 1 minute left. I was just giving you the.
Thank you. So I would prefer not to join the Green Party for the reason of I've stated that if I am nominated and I do run this race, I wouldn't take any money from anybody. I would like, if I did run, for people to be able to make donations to the Green Party, for that money to be used to help support other candidates and to strengthen the future of the Green Party. But I felt that if I'm a member and money, if I did receive the nomination, and then I was a member and money was being given to the party, that it would cause an ethical issue. So thank you very much for the consideration. I look forward to answering any questions that anybody has.
All right, thank you, and right on time. And I do apologize to everyone, but I just got a quick note from Rana that Hugh Birdsall is running in District A35. He's got to leave at 6 o'clock, so we just wanted to give him a couple of very quick minutes to speak, and then we'll do the vote back in more timely fashion. So I apologize for that interruption, but Hugh, if you're here, if you'd like to take a couple of quick minutes to plead your case, and then we'll get back to questions for Kevin and Jeff.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I don't know that I have much to say, except that we have the ballot line in Clinton and we want to keep it. They need somebody to run to keep that ballot line. I think if I run, I might be able to get the 1% of the vote we need in order to maintain it. I don't know that I'm going to run a very active campaign because I have a lot of other irons in the fire. But I'll certainly show up, and I think what will characterize my campaign the most would be kindness. That means a lot to me. It would also be a way for me to channel my helpless rage into acts of kindness. I could talk about more specifics, but I don't know that they would mean much. I'm on the Sustainability Committee in Clinton. We just applied for a bronze certification after a lot of really hard work from Eric Bergman, especially, and a bunch of other Greens who are on that committee. I'm also on the Tree Committee in Clinton. I work part-time for an organization called Reforest the Tropics. I'm their education coordinator. In other words, I go into schools and I teach kids about climate change and climate crisis, climate justice, all of those things. I've worked with probably maybe 5,000 kids over the last 5 years. And I'll probably keep doing that at least for 1 more year. And then I've got to train somebody to take on my job. Yeah, so if you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them.
Thank you very much, Hugh. And we'll, as I said, we'll do the official vote for that later on, but understanding that you've got a time commitment. We just wanted to give you a minute to go.
Thank you.
I'm going to move on to questions. And Jean does have a question that's just for Kevin, and I know I just said that, but it's a good point that I think bears a clarification. You talked about concerns about having some kind of, and I will give 2 minutes to answer that, and then just give 2 minutes to Jeff to just speak as he will. It's just to, in the name of equity. But Jean Dismay was asking like you to clarify what you considered some of the ethical issues as far as running as a Green. Certainly the Green Party, I'm not sure where you are, but the Green Party does not take any money from like PACs or corporations. It's all individual. And, we do set up a structure with the treasurer and et cetera, just to make sure that everything's legal and divided by that. But what exactly are your ethical concerns as far as becoming a Green Party member, at least for the course of this campaign?
So I'll try and explain try and explain my thoughts. I'm willing to make sacrifices, or I would be willing to make sacrifices to run this race. One thing that I'm not willing to sacrifice is my independence. If I am a member of the Green Party, if I'm a member of an organization that is accepting money to in a way on my behalf, I would feel like that would be benefiting me as a member. That if I was a member of the organization and the organization is accepting money on my behalf, what would be very important to me is that nobody would be able to say that I took anything from anybody, that and that money didn't influence the things that I did or said. I also feel like I'm willing to listen and have an open mind. I'm going to be I'm an independent person. I'm always going to do what I believe is right. That I'll never compromise on that with anybody. I feel that if I was a member of the Green Party, that there might be, more expectation or pressure. So I'm not sure if that does a good job of explaining my feelings, but that's what I feel.
All right, well, just to first of all clarify, I mean, nobody would be able to accuse you of taking any money for personal use, because all this is tracked very closely by, is this SEC or SEC or whoever, and there would be, we would have a treasurer for you to make sure legally that would go. I think you'll find a lot of Greens are very independent minded. It would just, our only concern is, and others might speak to this, is that, you just wouldn't violate any of those 10 principles. If you're going to go up and support environmentalism, but, come across racist or something like that, then we're going to have some issues, which I'm not saying you are, but I'm just trying to create an example. So I don't know if that alleviates any concerns there, but I do know a number of people might be concerned about you not being part of the party. But thank you for clarifying that. I do want to give Jeff 2 minutes to just speak however he will, just to kind of bring that time equity back. Jeff, if you'd like to.
Okay.
Speak.
I'm here, and I hope I'm being heard. Kevin, I've been a Green Party candidate in 2010, 2012, 2014, 2016, and 2018. And I can tell you from experience, there's never been enough money to influence me in any way, shape, or form. Uh, to me, it's more a matter of being a member of a team. If you don't feel that way, if you don't perceive it that way, that's your position. But I just wanted to share mine with you. And getting to money. One of the big problems is corporate money, and this movement to end corporate personhood is something that I see as going in the wrong direction, in the wrong way, and it misses the real point. Corporate personhood is not the problem. Corporate personhood is the only reason we can haul a corporation into court and hold it accountable in a court of law. The problem is that in 1904, a Supreme Court decision was made on a con job that stated that the 14th Amendment provision for equal justice under the law was intended to include corporate persons. Because that decision was made on a lie, I am firmly convinced that we do not need a constitutional amendment to rectify it. All we need is an act of Congress stating that there never was any intention on the part of Congress, which can be historically proven, that corporations were meant to be equal and meant to have equal justice. So that's something that I'd like to bring up again in a campaign, and see if we can get some people in Congress to listen, as well as some of our voters. Back to you, Cass.
Thank you, Jeff, for that insight. So we have another question here from Frida Berrigan, and this is to both candidates. She states, here in New London, many of us feel acted upon, taken advantage of by big corporations, from General Dynamics to Orsted to the for-profit corporations that manage housing for low-income people. Can you, each of you, talk about any plans or priorities for social and economic development from grassroots up? And I know you already started talking about this, Jeff, but since Kevin went first the other time, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to answer that, if you will.
Yes, I think this is a perfect example of the undue influence and detrimental influence of corporate power. I remember when a little live poultry shop in Hartford that the city tried to condemn just so they could take the land and give it to an insurance company was brought to the Supreme Court in the 1960s, and the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. And the case of oh gosh, I forget the neighborhood that was devastated, that was basically eliminated by the pharmaceutical company, but that case went to the Supreme Court, and it had so many similarities. So, well, this should be a done deal, and it was decided in exactly the opposite way. I'm not familiar enough with the specifics of what's going on in New London. I have a general feel of what's going on in the district, and there is far too much corporate influence, and we've got to hold our local officials' feet to the fire when they start telling it that us, when they start proving to us that they bought the con job, that, oh, this is going to be good for the community, when all it really is going to be is good for the corporate bottom line.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jeff. Kevin, same question.
Well, to touch on something that Jeff Russell brought up in his previous remarks, I think he raised a really great point about the development of the loss of farmland to the development of housing. And I think something that I would work on or push for would be a revitalization of places where housing currently exists, focusing, basically focusing, on making use of places that already have the infrastructure for housing, that already have the water, the sewer, the roads, the electric, and focusing on developing walkable communities close to mass transit. I also think, the question touches on that a lot of what's done by the government, I feel, is done to benefit major corporations, say like Orsted down at State Pier, where that pier is a tool to create wealth and benefit for a community, but all of that benefit is given to one or two, actually three major corporations. I wrote an op-ed for the Examiner that I was very proud of. It was called "State Pier Should Be Developed to Serve All Classes of People." And I lay out in that op-ed, how you could use a tool like State Pier, a big tool, to create opportunity and create wealth to allow people to solve problems.
All right, thank you much, Kevin. I just want to point out, because we do have a couple of members leaving, that the link is up, so please do feel free to vote before you go if you need to leave early. I am not seeing any other questions so far. One
was just added, by the
popped in.
way.
I'm sorry, Rana.
There was one question just typed in the second.
Yep, I saw that. So let me go to that.
Sorry.
But
Sorry
also
about
has his
bursting
hand
it.
up.
It is 6 o'clock, so we do want to kind of make sure we stay on a good time. And Lyndon has a hand up. Is this something you can put in chat, Lyndon?
I just wanted to make a quick comment. I wanted to support Hugh and Kevin and propose a fundraiser. I've been hoping to talk to Kevin about this privately, but I'd like to propose a class action lawsuit against Eversource, the Port Authority, and the Army Corps of Engineers over their permitting process, and a concert with Hugh for Haiti and Reforest the Tropic. And I'd like to thank Kevin. I didn't know that you had a background in soil science, which is one of my biggies, because we've literally been poisoning the earth with all these bioaccumulative products. Thank you.
Thank you. You might put your contact information in chat just to make sure the two of you can get ahead together. I'm going to go ahead and we have from Brian Gay, what are each of the second congressional district candidates' campaign priorities, and what would be your strategies for not only maintaining the ballot line, but also expanding Green membership in the second congressional district? And Jeff went first last time, so I'm going to let Kevin start us off.
So let's see. So campaign priorities. First campaign priority would be honest government. Focus on honest government. That acted in the interest of the people. That acted in the interest of what was best for the public, not was best for the special interests or the politically connected. Obviously, I'd weave in, State Pier as a example of the impacts of dishonest government. Another thing that I would like to make a priority would be making a real consideration of making a third party thought of, or a fourth party thought of, as more than a spoiler. I was very supportive of Oz Griebel and Monty Frank in the last election for governor. And I think that often the voice of a third or fourth party is heard, but they're almost always relegated to, the corner of being just a spoiler or never really having a chance. I think I'd like to, make it an issue that third or fourth party candidates are contenders they really could win, and they, they shouldn't just be kind of written off. Not that they're written off, but I mean they should be really considered as contenders in the race. I think that my strategies would involve, I would make use of free press, the newspaper especially. They're covering this pretty well. Make use of radio shows, make use of any free press that could be garnered, and then hold in-person events that focused on listening to people, getting conversation going, and hold these in unlikely enough places that their location and discussion would capture press attention, excite hope, and connect with people enough that they would act with their vote, enough to protect that ballot line. But I've said it before, if I run this race, I'd run to win.
All right, thank you very much, Kevin. Same question to you, Jeff.
Forgot to unmute before I opened my mouth. I have found that I've had great success by my standards by simply speaking honestly and intelligently about important issues. And if I'm the nominee, that's exactly what I'll do again. Kevin Blacker said, bring the voice to places where they're not expected. I would be happy to do that any opportunity I get. I think that's a very good idea. Dishonest government, or another way to put it, is bought off government. I mean, I was not aware about the intricacies of the state peer issues until I read Kevin's op-eds on the situation. And again, it looks like it's another case of the corporation sold a bill of goods and said, oh, this is going to be good for the greater community, when there's no real evidence to support that. I think those are the kind of things that we as Greens should be pointing out. And we are basically relegated to a second tier of candidacy. And I would think that ranked choice voting would go a long way to getting over that. And so ranked choice voting is going to be another issue that I want to stress in a campaign.
All right, thank you so much, Jeff. I'm going to close out questions just as a matter of time efficiency. It's a little bit after 6, and we do have a couple other candidates. And I did see in the chat questions about, can we do by consensus? And I have no problem with doing that for our unimposed candidates. Jean Dismain, is it Brian Gay for Register of Voters is the other one? I see Rana nodding, so good for that. But I do think it's important that we have the secret ballot for that. Again, that will be closing in just a few minutes. We're just going to give that a little bit longer to go.
If there is anyone who did not get the link in the chat, or who has trouble casting a vote otherwise, you can text it to me. I will tell no one what your vote was, but we set up this poll to be anonymous, and so I kind of like the idea of being able to do a secret ballot for any of our contested campaigns, and we can add Hugh Birdsall to the list, but I believe the rest of the nominations are likely to be uncontested.
All right, and Rana, you can see how many people have voted, so you have an idea of how many votes we're waiting for on that. You're muted, Rana.
Well, while we're waiting to Rana to unmute, I do not have a link to vote.
Oh, you'd think I'd know about unmuting by now. So
Right.
far,
Uh,
11 people have voted. And if you can text me your vote to 860-772-8439, I will be very happy to add it to the totals that we have.
Also recheck the chat. I just copied it and pasted it to the bottom of the conversation so to be more accessible for people.
Oh, my phone number
I
or
sent
the link,
your phone number.
my phone number. Okay, I
The
think
link,
We each
Copy.
have our own link.
everyone,
Yeah.
I sent a link personally because I only sent links to those individuals that I believe are registered Greens who live in a town in the district. Some people have had trouble using the link and have sent me direct messages or texts. So I will add those into the totals when I get them.
All right, well,
I
thank
used the link.
Thank you. While she does that, thank you to both our contestants for second district. I think it's always a good sign of a healthy democracy that we've got more than one candidate who are willing to step up and have some passion about the issues. You know, it was very congenial and well done. I know our other votes are going to be Jean Dismay is finally coming up in a little bit, and I'm just kind of a little bit talking to fill some space while Rana does the counting.
We don't have to wait for the count. We can go on.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
we're
true.
gonna-
I'll let people vote. I won't close the poll. And after maybe the Jean part, I'll share the screen of the results and tally in the couple that I got through direct messages.
All right, sounds great. So Jean Dismay has worked with a team to get signatures. And you'll remind us of the exact district currently held by May Flexer. And I know your big issue is ranked choice voting. Would you like 5 minutes to speak, Jean, and just plug your issues and talk about your
Sure.
campaign?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just trying to move it along, Kath. Senate District 29. I'm Jean Dismay. I'm a 67-year-old retired IBEW electrician. I'm a resident of Willimantic. I've been a peace activist, an environmental activist, and very much a political activist my whole life. I served as first selectman in the town of Wyndham for 2 years, and while we transitioned to a different form of government, the town manager. And so I know pretty well how government works and why it does not work. Most recently, I've been working a lot on election integrity issues, and that is why I decided to run for state senate this year. The Greens are frequently told, as you know, oh, why don't you work within the system, become a Democrat, and you can make some changes, or Republican or whatever party. That doesn't work when the system is broken. And right now, we see it nationally and locally. We're in a destructive cycle that is caused by the fact that we have two-party system. Everyone knows it's a flaw, and that's why most of the voters aren't registering with the two major parties. They're registering unaffiliated because they don't like the system and it's not working. We need more voices. We need to hear from more people, not just the Green Party, more parties. So the solution is to have more parties on the ballot. And one important change that we need to make is called ranked choice voting. And that's a change to how we vote. It's not a constitutional change. It's just a change to how we vote. Ranked choice, I assume everybody here knows what it is. You get to vote 1, 2, 3, 4. You're not forced to vote for the bad guy. You can have many more people on the ballot. And it's kind of like a multiple choice test, if you will. The major parties see this as a threat to them because no one could simply say, vote line A all the way, acting as if the voters are stupid, in my opinion. No more of the lesser of two evil stuff. You'd have no more holding your nose while you go to the polls. I remember we had clothespins on our noses once when we were trying to vote. No more being labeled, as somebody brought up earlier, a spoiler because somebody wants to run for office. It's critical to say, no, you're not a spoiler. You have every right to vote, and everyone has the right to express their opinion by voting for you. So I'm in the race basically to show the Democrats and Republicans. It may be a very close race in Eastern Connecticut between the Democrat and Republican candidates. I want to show them it's in your best interest to adopt ranked choice voting. If we had ranked choice, there'd be no spoiler, there'd be additional rounds of counting, you know that. Another electoral issue that's under-recognized and needs to be brought forward is that registrars of voters across the state are quitting because they're not getting paid enough and they're being expected to do a lot of training and go to a lot of, have a lot of skill sets that they didn't previously have. There's a lot of technology involved. There's a lot of data. You need a nonpartisan people, including all the way to Secretary of the State, nonpartisan people working the elections who don't have a vested interest in the outcomes. It's crazy to have two parties that are doing it. I wanted to mention, I loved what I was hearing from other candidates. So I just wanted to say, I love being part of a party that speaks of love and kindness. Oh my God, you guys. That's not politically correct. Thank you. Thank you. I'm running because we need to hear those voices. We need to say these things. We need to open dialogues, meet with constituents, respect people and respect their opinions. Like I said, yeah, I'm an environmentalist. I'm on my sustainability committee. I was the chair of the Energy Commission for, I don't know, 15 years. I've been fighting environmental things my whole life. But right now, I think that our democracy is really critically compromised by the system that they have established. And the only way to change that and to get them to change the system, because that's the only way we can do it, is for me to illustrate very clearly to the parties, and hopefully other candidates will be doing the same thing, that ranked choice voting is in their interest, not just ours. So that's my blurb. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jean. And could you or Rana just remind us what towns you would be representing so we can clarify who would have a say in this? I don't think there's going to be anything controversial, but just for official.
I'm going to say it's Eastern Connecticut. So we're talking Putnam, Pomfret, Brooklyn, Canterbury, Scotland, Wyndham, Mansfield, and I'm sure I'm missing somebody. It's not Hampton or Chaplin, but it kind of runs down Eastern Connecticut.
All right.
Tilly,
Thank you so much. And
yeah.
just because of time constraints, do we feel comfortable not really discussing this and going straight into vote for this? And we are going to do this by consensus. So that being said, if you have any objections and you fall within one of those towns and are registered green, please speak now.
Or if anyone wants to insist that there be a secret ballot, I think we can do that. Sorry, Rana, if you can.
Okay.
Oh, I hope we don't need a secret ballot.
Oh,
I did
okay.
create a Zoom just in case. But I hope, as we did at the state nominating meeting on Monday, we raised hands.
All right. So I am not hearing. I see Scott DeShefby has his hand raised. Would you like to speak very quickly?
Yeah, I'm not sure if Lebanon's included in the group of towns. Jean, do you know if Lebanon's included?
Lebanon
Aye.
is not included.
Not.
Not NOT.
Thanks, Doug.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott. Doug Larry here.
Thanks, Doug.
And I guess it's partly up to you whether you really feel it's important that only people in the represented towns vote. Because like later on, we'll vote on Brian Gay, and he's the only one here from East Hampton. He might want more sense of support than just voting for himself. So, when we do the state central ones, we don't break it up into towns. If you want to, you certainly can, but it's your choice. It isn't any rule in the bylaw that it has to only be town by town.
All right, my apologies. Thank you for the correction. Not hearing any objections, I would say that we have consensus on nominating Jean Dismay for to run against May Flexer. Thank you, Jean, for stepping up and doing that. And Rana, do we have our results now? Do we want to?
Yes, let me share. I will share the screen. I'll actually refresh the screen as soon as I share it. Just wait a second, because just in case there were some later votes. We had, how many people voted? 14 people voted online, and 5 people voted by private message. And the final vote was 14 for Blacker and 5 for Russell. So,
All right. Thank you again to both our candidates. Kevin, I don't know if you want to have a quick 2 minutes just to for your comments.
Sure. Well, I guess I'll start by saying thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you to Jeff Russell. I think he raised some excellent points. And I definitely, am going to look for advice, from him with his experience. I'd like to piggyback off of something that Jean, and I'm going to maybe say her name wrong, Dismay. I hope I got it right, is mentioned. And that was
good. You better than most.
the importance of having nonpartisan people all the way up to the Secretary of State's office. I'm going to say right to the press that are on this call, that's Brian Scott Smith, Steve Jensen, and Sten Spinella from the day. That statement is extremely important. The nonpartisan people all the way to the Secretary of State, and having faith in those people. I think in light of Scott Bates, who ran the Connecticut Port Authority and is very partisan, if I'm going to officially ban this race, I deserve, along with the people of Connecticut, to have a nonpartisan person overseeing the election. And I believe very firmly that Scott Bates is not. So I look forward, to running this race. I'm definitely going to be looking for advice and help. That's going to be the basis of the campaign. So thanks again.
All right, and thank you to you, Kevin, and to Jeff, both for standing up and taking on that role. We look forward to a good active campaign season. I believe our final, I don't know if we're gonna Ron
sorry to break in. Yeah, I'm waiting. We should vote on Hugh Birdsall and then go to the registrar.
Okay, so
and Hugh had to leave. I guess I should, and I think Eric Bergman. Oh, Eric is here. Maybe Eric wants to talk just a little bit about Hugh, although Hugh did speak, but I don't know.
Yep.
Eric.
Hi, Ron. Yes, hi, it's Eric. I can say a few words about Hugh's candidacy. Hugh, the District 35 State House District covers Clinton, Killingworth, and a portion of Westbrook. And the two announced candidates from one from the Republicans, Chris Anaskovich, the incumbent, Christine Goupil, the Democrat. I think by having Hugh and aiming at, we've had a candidate here for the last 3 election cycles, and aiming at anywhere from 3 to 5%, this could conceivably, because I think the campaign between Chris and Christine could be close. And many of us have told Christine to encourage her fellow state Democrats to introduce or support this ranked choice study bill at bare minimum. And they've neglected to do so, and May Flexer, as part of and I'm so happy to see Jean's running against her, wouldn't even bring this to a vote, which is an insult to all of us here in this meeting. So I think what Hugh could conceivably do is cause this election to flip one way or the other. We could be that big of a player in this. And what I'd like to do, and I'm with Hugh, is he'd like to use kindness as a platform, but I think we can really get into the weeds with this ranked choice voting. And this particular campaign could be pretty important if the Democrat loses it due to Hugh's votes. And we could bring some exposure to this ranked choice voting issue finally, and they have to pay a price. So Hughes is a great candidate. He's, like he said, he's been on he's run for Board of Ed. He's been on facilities, on the tree committee. Great candidate. I think we can be proud to stand behind him, and I'd like to formally endorse him. So thanks very much.
All right, thank you. So moving on to voting for Hugh by consensus, do we have any people who have concerns or blocks or anything else?
Scott had his hand raised.
And I'm sorry, who was that, Doug?
That was Doug saying, I thought I saw Scott DeSheffy with his hand raised.
Oh, I was just going to make am I on mute? No, I was just going to make a comment on behalf of ranked choice voting and how it tends to eliminate extremists in the nomination process and voting process, electoral process. So that was just an add-on comment. I'm not objecting to the nominee.
All right, thank you. Second call, any objections to Hugh Birdsall? Hearing none, that passes by consensus, and he will be our nominee for A35. So I can see you on my screen. Can I move on to Brian now? All right, Rana says yes. So Brian Gay, who will be Register of Voter candidate, and that's Hampton, I believe you said. And if memory serves, I believe you've run in that role before, but Brian, would you like to say a few words?
Sure, thank you, Cass. So good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Gay. I live in East Hampton, Connecticut, which is actually west of Hampton, which is also in Eastern Connecticut, but I'm in East Hampton. And yeah, so yes, I have, as you mentioned, Cass, run for this position before for Registrar of Voters in East Hampton. I ran initially in 2018 and then ran again in 2020. And so it's now 2022, and I am seeking endorsement again to seek office as a Registrar of Voters in East Hampton. And I guess what I would say about the office is that I first became interested in running. I had been approached by I believe it was Rona and Doug, but it was the state party really educated me on the Registrar of Voters office in the state and the role that it plays in elections and overseeing the electoral process. And also something I hadn't known prior to that was how it's a partisan position. So essentially, and for those who don't know, but each town in the state has at least 2 registrars of voters, one for the Democrats and then one for the Republicans. And that's by state statute that they're guaranteed those positions. It's the major parties that get guaranteed those positions. And so that being said, even if no one votes for either of the 2 candidates running in the 2 major parties, they still get the position. They still get that paid position, paid civic position to oversee our elections. And that was very concerning to me. I think it's unfair that we have, guaranteed positions for the Democrats and Republicans, even though a plurality of voters, at least in my town and in much of Connecticut, as in the US, are, as was mentioned earlier, unaffiliated. They're not members of either the Democrat or Republican Party. So I'm running, or I'm seeking endorsement to run on the Green Party line for one reason, to maintain the ballot line, because we were able to secure it in 2018 due to a procedural error on the part of the major party candidates who hadn't filed their paperwork that year. So the thresholds for securing ballot access was much lower in terms of petitioning. So in terms of gathering signatures, it was achievable. So that being said, would like to maintain the ballot line. I'd also really like to recruit others within East Hampton to join the Green Party. We're unique in having a minor party at the municipal level in our town, historically called the Chatham Party. It's since dissolved, but I think there's a lot of desire for other choices and other voices on the ballot here in town. And there's a history also of some issues with elections that have happened in town that raise concerns among voters. So I, in my professional life, work in quality assurance and work extensively with data, and feel that I would be well positioned to fulfill the duties of the role. And yes, so just would be appreciative of the Green Party's endorsement. And yep, look forward to answering any questions anyone may have. And thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Sounds like you really know what's going on there in Hampton and with the ROV role. So again, I'd like to do this by consensus. So do we have any objections or concerns about Brian being the candidate? Okay, hearing none, I am going to assume that this passes by consensus. Thank you, Brian, for stepping up and doing that work. Really appreciate it. I just want to double check with Rana real quick. Is that it for tonight, or do you have any other points?
It depends. Will Wyndham be seeking endorsement of a registrar candidate? That's the last on the list, but
All right.
I don't know that they're
up yet myself. Doug, if you, or Jean, if you would like to contribute to that.
Well, I can speak to the issue. Many of us in Wyndham have already run for registrar of voters. I ran twice in 2012 and 2014. Dagmar Knoll ran in 2018. Cassandra has run. Jean ran, I believe, in 2020. This is a long tradition in our town. Are willing to do this work, but many towns are. And so the point of running for registrar in our town is to point out that the two major parties do not represent most of the voters, just slightly over 50%, and that somebody else ought to be involved also. And so it would be very desirable for one of the people from Wyndham to be endorsed for this role and be on the ballot and yet again get 1%. We've gotten anywhere from 17% to 4%. There's not much trouble getting enough votes to keep this line. The key issue is, what name might we put out there? I work in this field, but my town, Wyndham, is outside the district I work in, and so I am eligible to be a candidate. Cassandra has already been a candidate and is obviously still eligible. It would be awkward for Jean to be a candidate for registrar of voters, since she's doing such a good job making the ranked choice voting message alive in Senate 29. And Mike Westerfield here has yet to be ever a candidate for. And so my sense is we should walk away with a candidate endorsed. They could always refuse, but
Okay, I nominate Doug Larry,
yeah.
just because you're so qualified.
Second.
All right, and I noticed Curtis wanted to know if we could nominate somebody. Curtis, did you have anything to add?
Cassandra, I was specifically wondering if would Doug accept it if I nominated him for registrar of voters, but then Gene jumped the line, so.
So Curtis, does that mean you were the second?
I'd be honored.
Yep.
And do we have any other candidates, just to go through the form and make sure that we're good?
Doug saved me from having to do it.
Thank you
Well,
so much for.
I certainly have the experience for it. I have already lost twice is a reasonably good point. So I'd be open to others who wanted to, and I could back them. But if others are not ready, I know how to do this one.
All right, so just to give, do we have any other nominations for Wyndham Willimantic Registrar of Voters? Third time, any other nominations? Okay, hearing none. Doug Larry is our candidate. Do we have any objections to Doug taking on this role, just so we can do through consensus? All right, hearing none, I am gonna assume consensus that Doug Larry is our next candidate for Registrar of Voters in Wyndham Willimantic. Thank you so much for stepping up, Doug. Yeah, Mike, you dodged the bullet. So did the rest of us. And we're already ahead on the signage. Great.
The advantage of having run a third time is you have the signs.
All right, Rana, is there any other business to be taken care of?
No, I think I just want to announce that New London does plan to nominate a candidate for the 39th district. Our meeting will be in person at 19 Evergreen Avenue, my house. And anyone is invited, but only New London Greens can vote. And just anyone who is endorsed, I will be in touch with you to get the proper paperwork signed. And with that, I think we should close the meeting at, does anyone want to move to adjourn at 6:38?
I'd be happy to move that myself, if anyone would like to second.
I'll second.
Oh, Brian got it.
Wait, who was that?
Brian.
Okay, we had several seconds, which is
Yes.
good. We won't have any no votes. Okay, we are adjourned without objection at 6:38 p.m. I can leave the meeting open if people want to continue any informal discussion for a while, but I consider this meeting over, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you indeed. Lots of good discussion, and thank you for everyone stepping up to do the work.
Just
Thanks.
a quick comment, Kevin, can you hear me?
The candidates.
Kevin, we'll have to
Thanks,
do
everyone. Good night.
coffee at some point. I'll be happy to travel to Noank. My great aunt and uncle owned a summer cottage near Esker Point on Noble Avenue, so I'm familiar
Thank
with that
you.
area. It was a wonderful part of my childhood, so I'll be happy to travel to Noank. We'll have coffee and I'll give you some pointers if you accept them.
I'd really appreciate that, Scott. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, all. I'm heading out. Good night.